Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to yet another edition of Tough Talking Thursday on Focus on Liberia. My name is Dennis Jai, and we are broadcasting from Atlanta, Georgia. You may have been following politics and elections and everything in Liberia. One topic that is almost absent from the discussion is Liberia's foreign policy and diplomacy. Okay, right now, when I ask some people, I say, what's Liberia's foreign policy? Sometimes they don't tell you. Sometimes maybe they're not interested or maybe they don't think it is that important. So we want to bring this back into focus and discuss Liberia's foreign policy and diplomacy and leadership and the future of the country. That is huge. With me to discuss this, I have the Honorable William Gardea Greaves Jr. He is the former Consul General, Republic of Liberia to New York. Honorable Greaves, welcome to Focus on Liberia.
Thank you so much for having me, Dennis. It's an honor and a pleasure to be before your audience, your great audience, and sharing my perspective on your well-chosen topic.
Thank you. Let me also mention that Honorable Greaves has Deputy Chief of Protocol to President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, Assistant Minister of Foreign Affairs, before he was sent to New York as our Consul General. So he was one of those privileged to be touched, what he called the old hands, like that, the old hands in the business, like Dr. The Minister, Ernest Eastman. Most of us grew up hearing that name. So someone who was taking on the wings of these great diplomats like then Honorable William Dennis, Charles Hensford, and the one that I really love is Ernest Eastman. Honorable Greaves, you're lucky.
Thank you. I'm blessed.
Yeah. We want to welcome all our viewers from across the globe. This is Focus on Liberia. Please join us to share the show. For some reason, we've been having some issues with Facebook. So if you are here watching, we are on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, and also Twitter. So wherever you are watching from, please share the show, invite a friend, and let us discuss a very important topic. Honorable Greaves, once again, this is your first time on Focus on Liberia, and I want to welcome you with a bottle of water to say our hearts on Focus on Liberia are clean like this water. So make this place your home.
Thank you so much, Dennis. Again, it's a pleasure being here. I'm thrilled. Thank you for inviting me here today to share my thoughts on the Liberian foreign policy, diplomacy, leadership, and the future of our country. These are some of the things I hold so dearly. Being blessed, like you just rightfully put, in touch by the hands of one of the greats in our country, the people who we hold so dearly and we still uh, respect and look forward to, although they are gone from us, unfortunately. In fact, Ambassador Eastman is deceased. Ambassador Charles Hensford is deceased. Ambassador William C. Dennis is deceased, and a whole lot of them. Witherspoon, the whole line of them that managed to see the future in some of us young breeds around. And hey, you got great potential, and can have you, serve this country, serve in this capacity, this role. And I'm very blessed and touched with that. So, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, let me start. I know I introduced you a little bit, but if there's anything else that you can add so that my audience can know you a little more.
So, yes, I'm gonna come to that.
Okay.
They're gonna have sufficient information on who Honorable William Gardea Greaves. And I know you got that name. Junior A. That was a good in your part. I'm impressed.
Yeah, I got to read a little bit about my guys before.
Yeah, I was impressed. I mean, I'm impressed. Yeah, okay. Yeah, but Dennis, what got me? I've never been on any of these podcasts. None of them from Liberia. I monitor a few of them, and it gives you a space of depression sometimes when you just monitor not ill will against anybody or criticizing any group, but I think it's a collective narrative, collective mindset in our country where everybody are kind of passing this new path that if you have the opportunity, you have a microphone, is just be critical, self-critical of
Mhm.
everything, forgetting the strength that we've had in our just recent past, how we've come so far, the progress that we made, and the succession of governance, from one transition from one, government to a political opposition party, political leader taking the mantle, and all that. So um, it did give me some reason and courage to come and accept being on your because I've been one of the few around who's so private quiet and just do my business, as a consultant or advisor. But I decided to come on to share, and I was looking forward to meeting Dr. Dugley and all that. Unfortunately, in that year, so sometimes I didn't get to have to share a panel discussion with him soon. Yeah, but I monitor one of your the past program, and it was beautiful. It was nice. It was a lot of educative materials spun around. But I thought to take it one step forward. So
Okay.
instead of looking at the historical analysis and how it's placed, in perhaps the best driver of change, while we're dwelling on historical analysis when we need to be thinking forward. You know what I mean? If we want change, it requires forward thinking and the vision and the burden of the past, but you don't want to dwell into the past because that leads you to depression. So I welcome the show and your team today. What I read about the tough talking on Thursday.
Right.
So
This is this is
yeah,
tough talking.
so yeah, I will be willing to share with you some of my tough reflections to stimulate discussions on how to unburden ourselves of the circular thinking, just I was just talking about, and the prevailing narrative when it comes to how we speak about our country and how we have it impact our relations internationally. So, and that comes back to my own perspective, like you just alluded to, my experience, my time I served in the office, both nationally and internationally. So to educate or inform the audience of who I am. I'm William G. Greaves Jr., Honorable. That's the title I carry. Some people ask me, why you carry the title Honorable? Honorable because I got confirmed by the Liberian Senate, and the title was conferred to me through petition by the president as the Honorable, and that stuck. Some would call me Ambassador Greaves, some would call me Consul General Greaves, some would just call me Bill Greaves. So whichever name I accept. So just at the inception of Madam Salif's tenure in 2005, I happened to be one of the people in the office with her, um, working the wheels, doing the running arounds. And I was privileged also to be directly assigned to her. So all of the foreign travels, back and forth, and all of those, because there was a lot of international uh, connections, international mediation and stuff. So we were always like abroad in every place. And I was there up to 2011 when I got appointed as I was there and I rose to the rank of the deputy chief of protocol. And then 2011, she saw the need to appoint me as a minister and sent me to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs as the assistant minister for European Affairs. So I was leading the charter of like Europe, the EU, East Europe, West Europe, the whole block. And I served that well. I think she had courage. He invested a lot of confidence in me, and didn't mean a word. She was very impressed and sent me over to New York and appointed me as consul general. And I came as consul general. The same mentality that we have, like I just explained to you, about our people. You just come in, you got to be cool, laid back. Liberia, we're not there yet. We can do this, we can do that. And when I came as consul general to New York, I became very active with our foreign partners, with our regional groups, like in a region, African group, European, Caribbeans, and what have you. So the next thing you know, my name was a household. Everybody, they're gonna know what Greaves, Liberian consul general, Liberian consul general, everywhere. Um, that put me in a position of serving in a leadership capacity for the diplomatic community. Uh, like New York hosts the largest number of diplomats just when it comes to consul general in the world. Um, so I serve as vice president for the Society of Foreign Counsel and later president for the Society of Foreign Counsel. And nobody could believe that. Everyone was like, how you did that? How it happened? It happened because I think they had trust in me. They saw me being very active, very supportive, and I brought more values that I was sharing with them and making things work. So I managed to become the president of the Society of Foreign Counsels of
Oh,
New,
wow.
of New York. Yeah. Yeah. So that is a logistic.
Thank you.
Yeah. And yeah.
So,
So
so today, those watching, this is the first time to see just one person on Tough Talking Thursday, and we're
mhm,
going to talk tough. Don't worry. But a lot of things happening. In fact, we came on late because even I had some power issue. We have one person of our regular panelists having power issue. Another panelist who's supposed to be here is attending a family program, something that Kimball has a father when you're, and things like that. So we have Honorable Greaves. We want you to come back so that you
mhm.
could be part of our panelists, so we can all talk tough. But let's start with our topic.
Anytime.
Thank you. Let's start with our topic tonight. Those watching now say, Liberia's foreign policy, diplomacy, leadership, and the future. Help me and my audience to establish the link between those: foreign policy, diplomacy, leadership, and Liberia's future.
Very, very interesting though. So myself, I didn't understand the whole concept and of leadership and diplomacy and being the foreign relations, what have you. So every time I heard the word diplomacy, it was all about being an ambassador or serving the foreign policy. When I heard leadership, everything, the only thing that related to me was being the president or serving as head of some group or yeah, being a leader of some organization or something. So I had an experience when I traveled to Cairo, Egypt, at the Foreign Service Institute. I did a course there in Egypt at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Egypt, and to do the course on development diplomacy. Uh, I just left the IBB there, and the correlation between the three got broken down so seamlessly, and it left me like in the position of aha, wow, that all I could offer. So if you look at leadership, we start with leadership, right?
Right.
Leadership is a set of behavior used to help people align the collective direction, right? To execute strategic plans and to continually renew trust. So what are the words attributed with leadership? We take to self-initiative, influence. So do you need anybody as a team, or do you need to be president to have self-initiative? No. Do you have to have a body of group to be the head of to influence others? No. We influence our kids. We influence our friends. We take self-initiation in things that we think is good. Even ourselves, we try to look good. We try to stay healthy. That's self-initiated. That's influencing. That's leadership of ourselves, our body, to remain healthy, to remain safe, to have a good dwelling place, to look good in this when you go out, go to the barber shop, do your hair. That's leadership. So you don't need the whole box. You don't need the group. You don't need to be up there. You don't know. So individually, we're all leaders.
Okay.
But they was bringing that. Then we link that to deportment. So we got from leadership, then we go to deportment. Deportment is what? Your behavior, your mannerism, right? Now, what are words associated to deportment? We're talking about conduct, we're talking about etiquette. And of course, in diplomacy and in protocol, it's etiquette. Everything that is done is precedent and etiquette. So you see the correlation between those two. So leadership, deportment is how you carry yourself,
Right.
how you want people to view you, well, the positive reaction you want as you're out there. Diplomacy, what is diplomacy? Diplomacy is a profession, right? But this profession and activity is a body of skills that manages international relations, right?
Right.
Typically, a country representatives abroad. So you have to have a representation abroad to represent you diplomatically. And what the words also associated with diplomacy, statesman, statecraft, soft skills. Because diplomacy is not is less of confrontation. It's about soft approaches to everything, understanding the details, understanding the context, and how you interact with the partners. So now, if we look at the three of those, you can understand where they connect. To be a good diplomat, you got to have good deportment, the mannerism, the character, the conduct. To have that and preserve those, you got to be a good leader, exemplary leadership that people can see in you and trust. So, like, I will divert a little bit. In one of your previous discussions, we're looking at Liberia and its relationship with the United States government, right?
Yeah.
And I think it was that a Douglas. He said that the U.S. does not respect us, do not care about us. Um, he was at the embassy. He had a personal experience at the embassy, and the ambassador had a ceremony, a program, or whatever. And State Department didn't care. They didn't want that. So that was a very unique situation to a particular incident and a particular individual who represented our country at the time. Have all of our ambassadors had similar treatment? I won't say yes, no. I don't believe so. Because even myself, when I serve as consul general, because of the way I carry myself, my conduct, my mannerism, my leadership skills, that ushered myself into a good diplomat. Every event that I had at the consulate, and I had so many events, the head of State Department responsible for the consulate in New York attended every one of them. In fact, I had his personal contact. I could take a phone call and call him if I had a problem, if I had something to do. So it varies between individuals and who you send out there to represent you. It comes with a lot of things. Like I was telling you, charisma,
Yeah.
right? The way you handle yourself, the presentation. When diplomats sit on the table, they're eager to hear what's coming from your mouth, what you got to offer. Everybody eager to know what you got to share, and they get interested in knowing that. So you see, from to be a state to be a statesman, you have to have the ability of leadership. You have to have self-initiative. You have to have influence because diplomat with what our job is to win people over, to serve as the image of our country, what we represent, to be able to persuade in international negotiations into a dialogue, into a bilateral or multilateral, agreements or interaction or negotiation, right? You have to have the ability, you have to have that gift. So if you're not a good leader, if you're not a good leader with yourself individually, how can you be a good diplomat? How can you represent the interests of your country? What is our foreign policy agenda now? Now, I'm a guest to the pro agenda. So we have two sets of foreign policies. Excuse me.
Right, and that's really
There's
what
one,
I was
yeah.
coming to
There's
there.
one,
Because they
there's
start
one.
asking the question already. You see, do we have a foreign policy? So
Yeah, we have two sets of foreign policies. One is static, that is on the books. That is that was when the foundation of the country, Liberia. Liberia established on certain principles as we build our constitution. And now we conflict democracy with our constitution. But however, we get that's another topic we're dialoguing to. What's the difference between democracy and the constitution of Liberia? What Liberia hold dearly? What Liberia is founded upon? So yeah. So we have one that is static. That is the one. It's almost like a photocopy board from the U.S. foreign policy. That non-intervention in foreign state, non and all that can keep the peace, blah blah blah. That is static. Now the one that is dynamic, that is changeable, are the ones that every successive leadership comes in and propose their own platform, their own developmental goals and agenda that has to do like when President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf was in power, it was about what
PRS,
poverty reduction strategy.
yeah.
So that and transforming Liberia. So the transformational agenda of Liberia, the Vision 2030, that was that was her agenda. So that was carved within our foreign policy
Oh,
because when we went to international meetings, international gatherings, multilateral settings and conferences or bilateral ties or whatever meetings, that was what the government was proposing out there. So it becomes the foreign policy agenda of the country. And
okay.
all of the foreign missions had to be in sync, had to be on the same page with that message that the president is of the transformation agenda of Liberia. She's one of
Oh, okay. Let me get
yeah.
something clear. You have
Mhm.
your domestic policy, like in the case of President Salif, PRS, Transformation of Liberia. In the case of President Weah, the PAPD or the Pro agenda, maybe President Do, Green Revolution or something, something, right? You said that's where the foreign policy comes from?
Yeah, the foreign policy is derived from the domestic policies
Okay.
because all of the policies that the various leaders will propose, right, is all about growth and development. But during their tenure,
Yeah.
so President Sirleaf came in at a time when our entire nation was at a complete decay. Everything was at a standstill, and she had to transform that system, build an infrastructure, do a whole lot with a consolidated support of UNMIL and broadly the United Nations and most of our international partners. So what was proposed at the time was the poverty reduction strategy and the whole bit. And that's something we had time we would delve into and break it down into pieces, but we don't have the time for that now. So all of that formed the foreign policy agenda at the time. And she was in sync and in collaboration with the whole Vision 2030 plans. So that was laid out and that was her agenda. And so every succeeding government, you have the governments have a continuity. Like the 2030 vision, her time elapsed within the period because you can only serve 2 terms in our country as a president. But the president who came after President George Weah is executing all of those plans and all of the agenda that she had proposed in the past. Although she's not president anymore, but they are there because the blueprints have already been set. But what he can do is that bring his own platform on how he found fit in how you deem fit in excelling or accelerating the developmental agenda of our country. So he came with a propos. So the propos now would be the one more the agenda more um, talk about an international community because that's his agenda. That's the domestic policy of the country. That's where he thinks or he believes rather. I'll put it that way that he can get growth for the country and development and everything else. So that's how foreign policies are formed. That's how the agenda, the dynamic one, the one that is working. Like I will go to something new now that a lot of the old heads that I speak with on our foreign policy, they get confused, they get ecstatic because gone are the old days, like I said, about the historical analysis of the country used to lead our foreign policies before. Um, um, how we came into being, all of those long ceremonial from the pageantry and all that used to be the way for leading diplomatic engagements. Now, what do we have? Times are going so far. Times are evolved. We're now into development diplomacy. Development diplomacy is to explore development cooperation as important dimension of international relations. See that? And it prioritizes the public diplomacy ambition and aspiration with simultaneously achieving development goals. So
And what does development mean in the first place?
development,
Yeah.
development goals in agenda is anything that is uplifting to the country in building the basic, especially the basic infrastructure. Yeah, better schools, better roads, better hospital, better facilities, better economy.
Okay.
All of those, yeah, fall in that. So development goals at those achievable under that umbrella. Yeah, so that's what it's about. So development diplomacy is more about economics. It's more about business transaction in a diplomatic thing.
Mhm.
It's fast and talk. It's meeting lenders. It's meeting multi multilateral partners. And most of the multilateral partners are all what? Financial institutions, big global financial institutions. Like you saw what happened during Ellen Johnson Sirleaf's journey, President Sirleaf, the wave of our debt. It started with bilateral talks between certain friendly countries that we had, that we were close to. And the next thing, it went to a multilateral platform that all of the big financial global institutions came together and accepted and agreed to waive the 5 billion that Liberia had accumulated over decades. So that's how it works. So that's the goodness of development diplomacy, hitting the ball straight and getting it done, sitting at the table, no wasting time. And hey, this is what we are, this is what we think we can be, this is what we want, this for you, this for us. Bam, it's gone. So yeah.
So looking at our foreign policy and like how you talk about the static and I suppose dynamic one, the one that we do, but how has that evolved over the years? Where did we start from, and where are we now when it comes to liberal foreign policy?
So another tricky thing is that most people do not understand the dynamics and the basic facts of foreign policy, foreign engagement, bilateral ties. You know, we become, what would I say? I don't want to use this word as a lot of a strong term, but I would just use it just to give you the understanding of what I'm driving. Dependent upon other nation. And a diplomatic relationship does not work that way. Like if we establish a diplomatic relations with a country and then we're negotiating terms on the table, it is with that country interest that is brought forth. It's not they're not going to come on the table and put your interest on it on to negotiate. No. So like when I was in IBB, we had something Dr. Taylor, Prof. Taylor will say, we should learn. That was in international negotiation in the masters. Yeah, he said, learn to reconcile the possibility of the desirable with the desirability of the possible.
Mm.
Yeah, what that means? It means that you're gonna come with all your stuff. You're gonna come with all what you want, what you desire, and put on the table. They're gonna come with what they desire and gonna go on the table. And it's gonna be it's a bargaining thing and it's fair value. So you're gonna tell them where you stand. They're gonna tell you where they stand, right? So everything, all the hopes, everything you came with, everything you wish to have might not materialize. You might come with 10 items, and at the end of the day, you might have maybe six, if you're lucky, seven approved, and you do the treaty. They might come with like 15 or dozens. You might be lucky too. They might have nine, but once it's signed the treaty and accepted, and that exchange is done, it becomes permanent. It becomes acceptable. So when you learn to reconcile the possibility of the desirable with the desirability of the possible, is that all the things you wanted you didn't get, but what you got should be desirable, should be what you have as the possible outcome. So that's what it means. So like our relationship with some countries, even like the US. So we use a colloquial term like friendly nations, our friends. In diplomacy, there's no friendship.
Mm.
Now, but we use that informally to just show how much we maybe care about a country or how much we're close to a nation. But diplomacy doesn't work that way. Diplomacy is national interest.
Mm.
That is national security or what you talk about, or in our case, our national economy. And so if we had an agreement or ties with the United States government, we had there's a word called a terminology called reciprocity.
Right.
It has to be based on reciprocity, and nobody determines the skill of reciprocity. Only the two countries that enter into agreement determine what is reciprocity. So people from the own world looking outside, oh, they don't care about us. They don't give us what we want. They don't do for us like they should be doing. It's not a prerogative. It's not a responsibility to do for you what you want them to do for you. Their prerogative is their interest and what your interest was or your interest where. What did you sign up for? That's the basic principle of the diplomatic relations. So it's reciprocity. It's like I go to the store in Liberia. You know how we did in Liberia, and I walk in the store to a Lebanese man, and the shoes were valued $100, right?
Right.
Everybody's wearing that shoes. Everybody bought that shoe $100, and I managed to use my skill or my talent, and I persuaded him to drop the price for me to $80, right? And
Right.
he accepted. It does not change the value of the shoe. The shoe remains valued at $100. Now I was able to get it for $80, but the value has not changed. So when I wear my shoes, you can't look at my shoe and say, "Damn it, you guys wearing an $80 shoe." No, they're gonna say, "Oh, he's wearing $100 shoes," because everybody know the value of the shoe is $100, and I persuaded the merchant, and I was able to get it for $80. So that's what it is. So from the onward looking, from the outside view, people turn to criticize, people turn to talk, and all that. They don't understand the context, they don't understand the foundation, they don't understand the facts, and they don't understand what is being put across. What established the two countries. So we do have a diplomatic relationship with the United States government, like many other countries. Yeah, we have a traditional past with all of the history that because for me, I hate to dwell in this history all the time, except maybe we in a different certain like for lecture series or civics or history or whatever you. So just, but going over and over, and one of the things we're going to talk about is 1847. So you ask like, real, oh, any diplomat, how we, where are we, how we were here. 1847, they had us as slaves, we go back and we keep rehashing. So we keep sticking back in the past instead of forward thinking. And but and don't get me wrong, historical analysis has a place though. Just perhaps that at this stage, I just try to change the paradigm to
because
forward thinking. Yeah,
you have to use the background of the past to be able
you can
to
use
the future.
you can use the background to a little extent, but we spend more time in the past. And if you ask my opinion, if I want to look in the past right now, my past would be the recent past. When did we have? Because it's something that we all can relate to. You know what the civil crisis in Liberia was about. You know how it felt. No matter where you were abroad or whatever, you felt it somewhere, one way or the other.
Mm.
We all have friends connected to the chaos and atrocities that were caused in Liberia, relatives or whatever. So we all bear the pain, the burden of it. Those are things that are relatable. How did we get out of that? How did we come to 2005? How did we manage to have the first successful democratic elections post-war that brought in Madame Salif 2005? What happened on her regime? How she managed to have two successive elections and it went very well. The historical one was turning over presidency to a political opposition leader smoothly in our lifetime. Have we ever experienced anything like that? So that's a past, but it's on a high. And it makes sense to talk about because you realize goods from it. It makes impact. It better our lives. It doesn't deny, there's no way of denying our past, but it doesn't destabilize our present and doesn't jeopardize our future. Yes.
So you are saying only bring in the positive, the high. Don't talk about the lows.
Talk about it for now. It's very well our nation's on a brink.
Mm.
We're at a crucial stage. I'm telling you, Dennis, where am I coming from? Everywhere you go, I've been to so many summits across Europe and here. I've been to so many gatherings. Everywhere I met, it's very, very rare to see Liberians. But everywhere I met one Liberian and who had a platform to speak or to have an interaction with another foreign guest, gets the first word of the mouth: corruption.
Mm.
The country is corrupt. The government is corrupt. Not knowing that we are all tarnishing our own reputation. Because if the government is corrupt, the country is corrupt, opposition leaders, everybody's corrupt. Corrupt is now weaponized in the sense that we can use it to people we disagree with. We use it in politics like anti-rhetoric. It's replete with cliches and nuances for our own individual good and purposes, just to get at people we hate or people we don't like. And for that reason, we bring the whole country down. So Liberian citizens who are even innocent got nothing to do with government. You get out there, you travel abroad, as soon as you say I'm a Liberian, the first thing associated with is corruption. Because when you turn the podcast, you turn the news on, you read the papers, you hear Liberians talking. Everybody, we all denigrating our own country, denigrating ourselves.
Mm.
Everything is corruption, 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 corruption. I was just in Geneva, and this is a fellow I should know. He's from the West, Caucasian, and he had been in Liberia. He was in Liberia about 2008 for a brief movement. I think he was on some investment. What I became one of the NGOs, international NGO organizations, and he saw me. He was so happy to see me. Oh, long time, Greaves. How's everything? How's the president? You know, referring to the former president. So she's okay. She should be doing fine. So yeah, back then was a good days. You know, I said why? I said everything is good. I mean, Liberia is still good. Liberia is still thriving. It's on the right trajectory. It's moving forward. He said, but not what I hear, and that's not what I read. I said, oh, share with me. What happened? He said, every time I hear about Liberia, every time I read about Liberia, it's all about corruption, corruption, corruption. The country's going down so bad. I'm like, ah. I said, well, I didn't think so. But And I managed to talk him into other things and whatnot. But I will not go through that whole discussion. But
Right.
just the perception, how people think of us. Now, I was at another gathering. That was in DC, and this guy was talking, and he said the country is still corrupt. Our past were bad, and he went on the whole story of Charles Taylor, former president. Charles was not taking the hate, and Charles Taylor was taken to the Hague and prosecuted because of the atrocity he caused and the injustice that he caused in Liberia. And a white guy sitting right by me, right, who's
Yeah.
not a Liberian, a non-Liberian. He said, "What?" He said, told me, he said, "Greaves, is that right?" I don't know what he's talking about. I don't think so. He said, "No, I don't know that to be true." He said, "Because we know the international community and all that, we all were part of this thing. We know Charles Taylor was taken to the, were prosecuted because of his involvement in Sterling."
Yeah.
Can you imagine? So all the kind of, I mean, it's like we denigrate ourselves. It's very diminishing, you know. So when we think we on a high, we're talking about corruption, the country is corrupt, the government is corrupt. Every government from Joseph Junior Rao's time, they come and say, we say Hosanna, right? Hosanna in the highest, right? And then that's the crucified. So that government comes, hey, that's that government to corrupt. People corrupt. We want it out. If I we will wait for the proper way to get it out, we want to storm out. So that is the mentality. That's the thought process. And that's what I tell a lot of people. Look, I don't have any problem going back to our way distant history. What does it offer us? A lot of dissatisfaction. It offers us a lot of hatred, division. That's what it brings. It comes back again and bring the whole narrative of divide. That's what it does. We can conquer country. This one, oh, they was America like her. I mean, all the kind of talks. Oh, the Americans were bad to us. The Americans did this to us. They didn't do that to you. Oh, I heard somebody who was so in diplomacy, you don't use emotion. Your emotion should be backed. You deal with facts and you deal with the actual cause.
Hmm. There, there are a
Investigate.
lot of there are a lot of things to,
Dialogue.
there are a lot of
Mhm.
things to unpack there, right? Because
Yeah.
it's like, okay, on one hand, we want to present good image because
Mhm.
the two words I hear most, and you are right about corruption. The other word is incompetence. Oh, they are incompetent, right? And
Mhm.
so we are not getting our fair share at the table because our leaders or the diplomats, the people representing us at the table, are not competent. So I hear that a lot as well. You're saying we don't have to say that, just present a kind of rosy image.
No, no. Don't get me wrong on this, right?
Okay. Yeah, I want to understand it more.
There is accountability,
Yeah.
right? To every leadership and every responsibilities, excuse me, to every responsibility, there are consequences, right? So if we focus on accountability, that Dennis is in this position, right? Dennis should be accountable for everything that goes wrong in that position, right? So we have check and balance systems. In fact, we had a goodwill where we offer the international community to work with us on international good practices. Those are ways that you get the good image of your country out there, right?
Mm.
Every country in the world, there's not one country that is free of corruption, but they're still thriving. Ghana, they're I didn't even know the strength of the opposition group in Ghana until I was there a few months ago to do some political summit. The opposition is very strong, very powerful. It's the former president. I think he served one term. He was vice president. He served with Mohammed. He leads the opposition black. They are very influential. But if you come out, you do not hear that. In there, between them, they're discussing corruption, they're discussing all the vices and all the ills of society. But when Ghanaians out there, what do they tell you about Ghana? They're attracting people to go Ghana.
Yeah.
That's why the tourism has
Yeah.
boomed. Everybody wants to go Ghana, right? everybody flocking to Ghana. So, and they're generating a lot of income just from that. Tourists coming in and all the attractions, and all the big events that happen that leave from here, the United States of America, and hosted in Ghana. Now, if Ghanaians were coming up here and seeing the president is corrupt, everything you hear, we're not going to shield our dark parts, our dirty clothes, our dirty laundry. No, but we're going to deal with it responsibly, so that it doesn't get weaponized. That's where I'm coming from. Right. There are a lot of people. I just give you a few examples of somebody who even a Liberian, who was supposed to be a Liberian, who would argue against a white man that, hey, I'm from Liberia, you're not from Liberia, who went up on stage and completely misled the whole congregation, talking about Chastity was sent prosecuted because of the atrocities and injustices he caused in Liberia, which was not true. And he had to be fact checked by a white guy who sat right next to me. He said, "Creed, is that true? I don't believe that to be so. I don't believe it myself." So that's how I go. So the whole thing with corruption, when corruption is weaponized, when it's just the only thing you hear from Liberia, what does it do to us? It slows the growth, investment, and potential investment from international partners. I'll give you the question, Dennis. If you were looking for you're trying to employ a guy, right? At your program, and you're going around, you want to employ anybody, it doesn't have to be a guy, anybody. And you put up an advertisement, announcement, and candidates are coming to you, you're interviewing and trying to find the right person for the job. And a guy comes and sits before you and tells you, Dennis, I got things are not easy on me. I really need this job. I got 5 children at home. I have a wife, I have a family, and they have to survive. But I want to admit to you, I'm very corrupt. Yes. And my whole past, everything I've done has been all corruption. But I want a job. A few seconds. Tell me what would be your, I think rhetorically I know, but I just like you speak. What would be your response?
Right. No, I don't want corrupt person.
So it's the same, it's what we do. Now, few people in government or some in higher ups or whatever in the country or whatever will be corrupt, right? We'll have problems with that. And sometimes you gotta get the facts because you have to establish the facts. What was the scale of the corruption? What did the person really do? Not that everybody talking. Now the public opinion takes it so high. Before you get to nobody, it's all over the spread. And when the facts come, and when this person was not so, nobody gets to hear. And it's a problem. And what happened to international partners? What happened to potential investment? To invest in a country, and we'll go back to diplomacy, international relations, and all that. To invest within a country, right? Countries do what? Risk analysis, right. Cost benefit analysis. Nobody want to put that good money behind a bad money, right? So it slowed the progress of Liberia in investment, international contacts, and all that. Investors are looking at Liberia like, no, all we hear in Liberia, you turn the news on, you tell everybody you talk about Liberia and what have you, Liberia is corrupt. So how am I going to invest in Liberia? Right. Who's focused? Not the government, but the people in Liberia who should have better economy, better jobs, and what have you. They feel the burnt. So now, if we look at accountability,
right, and that's the balance I'm trying in my head to strike, right? Because you want to hold people accountable, you want to speak truth to power. Okay, you know that people are not doing the right thing. So how do you walk that line to make sure you are holding people accountable at the same time you are not projecting a bad image of your country out there?
So you mean how to hold an official individual accountable for
people that are actually corrupt?
Go to the facts, the public information. Get the information. Do it in a way that you're not just stating the total, but there's one person you're after, the one person you're going after. But the way we do it is general.
Yeah, everybody is corrupt.
So, and for that reason, what happened to us? Everywhere you go, every Liberian that's out there, you have to be asked that question. The president was just, I think the current president was just on Al Jazeera. He had an interview. I think the first question that came out of the host mouth was issues of corruption. When our country should have a national platform and be talking about developmental goals and attracting investors and doing things. He had just come from Israel. the promise to open an embassy in Israel. Then he got an interview a few weeks later, I think a month later, or what, I don't know, but the time frame. And the first question is asking what? Corruption. So these are some of the these are some of the things we're talking about. Now, accountability is self-inclusive. It's all inclusive. Accountability is individual Liberians, all of us, being accountable for what we want, how we want to be, what we want our country to be. You have to be accountable individually. If you're accountable, it closes that gap of the weaponization of corruption.
Okay.
Somalia. What's the worst corrupt country in the world? The number one corrupt country in the world, Somalia, right? I know a lot of Somalians. They're up here in NYU. They're all around this place. You never hear them talk about corruption in the country, right? What is attracted to Somalia right now? You have the highest investment of the United States interest in Somalia. You have the international community fully involved with Somalia. You have the president, a guy who's liked by so many. You don't hear Somalia being corrupt. The only thing that was associated with Somalia in the past was the conflict.
The war.
Yeah, the war. That's died down. They're making peace. You never hear corruption. And they're the number one corrupt country in the world, as the index put it.
So,
According to the index.
You said something earlier. I want to kind of go back to that, which is the interest, right? Every country that goes to the table to negotiate, they're looking out for their own interest and not yours, right? We have this perception, especially when it comes to Liberia-U.S. relationship, where in fact someone made a documentary, say Liberia's America's stepchild. So looking up from outside, looking in, we see this stepchild, stepdad relationship. So in that case, how do we really go at a table to negotiate with America? Putting our interests forward without being, as you said earlier, dependent.
Because that's a mentality also. You got to have the forward-thinking people who knows that Liberia has its own interest. Understand diplomacy, understand international negotiation, understand bilateral meeting and all that. You got to have those concepts in your mind. You got to go prepared. So if we go to the United States government, we'll not get all that we want. We'll not get all that we hope to have, but we'll get something. And that will be agreed upon. And what we get will be sufficient for us. What we do, use it to the best of our ability, use it to the best to serve our country. So that we don't be looking. And another thing in relating to this. And that's why you find many times the grants, all countries in the world, look, that there are a lot of things Liberians' minds need to be open to, right? The number one country in the world that's better from perception, because all these surveys are done on perception. It's what has been perceived of the country. It's nothing else. It's not like going there and checking, how many people corrupt in the country. No. It's just a perception. And that's why that's how the index generate your level of corruption as a country. So it's perceived that the most clear country of corruption, still got corruption though, but the better state is Denmark. They come number one. The worst, Somalia. Now, but Denmark still have level of corruption, right?
Right.
And Denmark, the United States of America, all the countries in the world borrow money. That's how they run. So we depend on aid, we depend on grants and all that to help boost our economy, right?
Right.
Every country does the same. But guess what's interesting here is that most of those countries have done so well with the grants and the aids they received over the period, and they have proven to the international community that they're responsible. So for that reason, you see investment to the country from partners, right? International partners and what have you, will rise. Investment, grant, will drop because people have explicit trust and confidence. It have done a risk analysis studies that don't cost benefit analysis that we can invest more in this country. And then we tell the multilateral financial institutions, hey, you know what? Our income is going good. Our revenue generator is good in true investment and trade and whatever. So we're dropping so that the grant, the aid, it drop. It's not going to cut up, but at least it's going to decrease. So Liberia will still be on the scale the battle with because what investment or potential investment, they were scared. So investment is low, and what you have more of grant, you have more of aid. You have the EU coming giving us money, you have the US government giving us money, you have all the different international organizations, financial international giving us money, subsidizing our government, doing all that. It's because our own doings. We're hurting ourselves. And then what happened in that case? They start to tell you what they want. If you don't do this, cut. Right? You heard that before, right? You know, so you're dependent on that. So the more we share the good image of Liberia, we can talk about corruption, but talk about corruption in a more sincere manner, right? Facts with facts. If I'm accusing you, I should accuse you based on the facts. I should not, it's because I heard somebody say it, and I just go with it, and because I have a platform, so I regurgitate it. No, I cannot use that because I don't like you, and you're in a position that I aspire to be. I wish I was there. And this guy, I don't like him, whatever. So we're going to frame him into something and we're going to blast it out there.
Do the leaders of a country have much to do with how this foreign image, this policy, or how we attract these investors, right? Because it is what we hear or what I see, and I can say that people we all saying, hey, during this time, like under President Ellen Sirleaf, the international community was open, or we had more friends, and now under President Weah, this is going this way. Do the leadership of the government have anything to do with how we are perceived and how we partner with these countries?
I think it's a time and a place. I don't think it was ready the leadership, as people want to put it, because all of our leaders, and for the good part of it, that have been highly respected internationally. Um, some will be more involved, more engaging than the other.
Right.
Doesn't mean that the international community does not respect them, but is that at a given time, one had a lot of challenges and had a lot of responsibilities and attacked. Everybody was concentrated. Everybody was concerned with. When you just come from war, when everything is broken down, when everything is a decay, when all of our institutions are incapable of rendering the basic services to our people, when you have almost like a rebuild or start from scratch in the international community are looking at that situation. You're pleading your case out there, and you have you
Right.
and
That's
Man
the
City
key word,
also
right? You got to plead your case out there.
plead your case out. Yeah, plead your case out there. And the good thing, the strength, one of the strength of Madam Salim is that she knew the crowd. She knew the gathering. She knew how to get in there. But and at that time she needed to do it. So she had to use all of her experience. She had to use her expertise, her skills, and talent to get things done for us because it was very crucial. You didn't want to come from a civil conflict all that time and then have all the attention and all the support and then make them go see it becomes a failure or we derail, you know. And we had a serious setback. Once you walk in the office, it was daunting challenges. Almost everything was out of order. There was nothing functioning in Liberia, and so they had a and another thing also that from a secession that I think also hindered a lot of startup for the new government was that the roadmap plan that was developed from that time up to Vision 2030. It had a lot of problems. The country went to a complete halt. You know, during the drop in the world market when the economy dropped, and most of our major commodities that we export, rubber, iron ore, palm oil, the prices got decreased, and that was a serious challenge for the government at the time. And then to add to that, we had a problem with the financial crisis right at the time. Yeah, we had a financial crisis, all those prices dropped. So we're getting things exported for nothing. Then we had a complete standstill when Ebola hit 2014, and that took a lot. So that stalled the whole roadmap plan, and it had to be replenished. And when you build a puzzle, just break it one in seconds. To build it back is not easy. So all of those things kind of like elapse over the time, and the current government inherited that. So, but what we should be grateful for is that most of the things put into place, those legislation that Manasseh managed to have, that Sweden have done, the reforms that she brought, the government that succeeded her decided to go by those same principles. They kept all those and one of the main things was freedom of speech, freedom of expression. You know, I mean, we can argue back and forth, but if you look at the skill of it, I think it's been maintained, and that's a plus for this government. And during a period, you would say anything on my sleep, you never even have your time. And I think I see the same thing happening with the current president. So it's difficult because look, I gave you a history of this guy, the former prime minister of England, of the UK, Winston Churchill. Winston Churchill never got popular when he was just in office, when he was just prime minister. No, Winston Churchill he had one cardinal point, and he blew up from it. And today, history posterity has judged him. History, we look back at Winston Churchill as one of the strongest leaders. Why? What was it? World War II. The decisions and strategies that he brought, the decisions he made, the strategies and what have you that saved the people of the UK. That's when they recognized, oh wow, he's a good leader. Everybody didn't like him. Everybody thought he was unpopular. He was not thought he was unpopular, and everybody thought he was a weakling until he proved himself in World War II. Today, what history got to say about Winston Churchill? It's one of the most powerful leaders. Look at Nigeria. We have Buhari, who just left power. Buhari, everybody just cried on him. Everybody said all the negative things you said about Buhari. When Buhari had elections and was successful, and he handed over power, and he had an interview. What the first question that the journalist asked him, President Buhari, now you're left power. What would be your legacy that you want Nigerians to remember you by? He said nothing, only one. He said, what is it? When I was president, I managed to have a successful election. And my successor came and it was peaceful, calm. We didn't shed blood. We didn't do anything. We didn't fight. And even before that, I had a governor, they had a governor election. We lose a lot of the strongholds we had, our party, and opposition won it, and we let it go. And to this day, guess what? So everything turned around. Everybody praised the whole so hiding now. Buhari did well. Chris and the economy was bad. The man sleeping. He's ill. He's frail. So he's frail rather. So you see how politics, how things go with leadership.
I mean, that was a low bar to say, well, because we have elections, so I'm good.
Oh,
but I want us to talk about
and that's what the people like, and they're happy for that. They're rejoicing, so they're healing. So you see, yeah.
Let's look at our partners, right? Because this diplomacy thing is not always between countries. It's also between organizations like the UN, the European Union,
multilateral organizations, international organizations. Yeah.
Right. Let's talk about, and then the thing, especially during the war, the UN was a major one. Let's talk about our relationship with these partners too. I mean, sometimes I hear everything like, bro, our partners. What do they get from us? Because everything is interest.
Well, I can tell you one thing is that they hail Liberia. They hail Liberia so high right now. Our international partners think they're and that's why they have a lot of the guys I speak with. I mean, I talk. I'm around. I do a lot of these conferences and summits and meetings, and they're so disheartening that the way we speak of our country because they speak differently. They speak about Liberia more positively. You know why? They invested a lot of resources in Liberia, right? To get Liberia where it is today. And they have begun to use Liberia as a post-success conflict story, post-conflict success story, right? So all of the agenda, all of the things they do when they go back home, because most of the money that is generated in Central Liberia to help us is all from the taxpayers. It's
Right.
not money just sitting somewhere they go grab and bring it. No, those are taxpayers' money, hard-earned taxpayer money, pay money. So when they come back to the countries and what have you, they want this good report to tell the people how much they invested in Liberia. You see the dollars and cents, and they say that if this is what we achieve, that the country is stable, the country has turned the corner, no back, no, it's not derailing, it's not going back into civil conflict. We kept the peace, we sustained it, it's be preserved. And that's another thing this current government is doing. Madam said he kept the peace, she turned it over, she preserved it, and this current government is also preserving the peace and keeping it. That's one of the things that they hold so high. So when they're dealing, especially the United Nations, when they're dealing with other countries in conflicts and what have you, Liberia is the first country always used as a success story, as a case study.
And,
Yeah.
and we don't feel that way because we think that well, these people have the interest, they want to keep their jobs. That's why they
No,
say.
no, I mean it's if you invest into something, you don't invest at a loss.
Mm.
You invest to gain. And once you're gaining, you want to talk about your gains. Now they can talk. Look, they have the index. They know where we stand. We slipped in 2022 on the index for the first time in 10 years. We slipped to I think 140 amongst 180 countries corruption on the corruption index. How did that come about? Is because they do it by perception.
Yeah.
People flying to Liberia. You sit around Broad Street, and in Liberia, you see passing. Just ask them, how are you? I'm fine. How's the country? Oh, the country corrupt. How's the government? The government, everybody corrupt. They're taking that survey. Everybody they speak to, they turn the news on. That's why they hear. They go. People are not. They're not sincere.
Mm. But how about when you arrive at RRA and they are taking bribes? They see that too, right?
So those are measures. Those are things that can be curtailed. Those are things that we can advocate. Look, I'm not saying don't talk about corruption. I'm not saying don't expose corruption, but you can expose it. I use Ghana as an example.
Yeah.
Ghana, I went Ghana before I knew people had discerning views about the government. I never thought that when I was here. Every Ghanaian I met has something good to talk about Ghana. Ghana was the best country in the world. That's all I know. When I flew to Ghana, I saw the dissenting view. I saw, if I'm not mistaken, the opposition is even in the majority. And the things to say about the government, the current government, I thought I was, I thought I was in, I thought I was someplace else. The government is, the man is, they said the president is very corrupt.
Right. So
They
it's
say he got his family. I know the whole story about people nepotism and all. I mean, on and on and on. But you'll never hear that on the international stage. People can talk about it. Nobody's precluded from talking about it. But how much we talk about the dark parts, how much we talk about the downside of us, than the success that we have. Then you can put it on back. Or you can measure a little bit. Say, okay, we're doing this, we're doing good, we're doing well. Things are the country is safe, is stable, or these are some of the issues we're dealing with, or what have you. We can approach the international community in a better way to help us solve some of those problems. That has to go accountability that can go to. But if we take flaggers and start walking and marching in the streets of Monrovia, walking to the U.S. embassy, and showing and calling the ambassador to give our petition against the government with corruption and all that. And we want the government out. What we're doing, we're exposing ourselves. Nobody doing it to us. We're doing it ourselves. If we call it the EU, everything we're going to jump in. The EU got to come. No, we don't. And we said, no, we are governed. We are a sovereign nation. We are our own people. We're independent. But every time we have a little problem, every time we have a little issue, what we do? We jump the boat. We jump to the people. Explain that for me. I mean, a second, where I'm coming from. That country's corrupt, worse than us. But they're striving because it's not the only thing you hear about those countries. It's not a main, for us, it's the main talking point.
Yeah. Okay.
Which is detrimental to our own growth and survival.
The last thing I want us to talk about before I bring in my callers and then read comments, and if you want to join the conversation, 605-313-6004. The code is 791-403#. Is so this forward thinking, right? What do we do at this point? How do we turn this around? How do we protect that image?
So I mean, now is the time that it's very important that it's about time that we all Liberians focus more on accountability, because accountability is for all and is all inclusive, right? It does not relate to the government alone. It does not relate to opposition political parties alone, but every individual citizen is accountable for the state of our affair of our country, and also international partners. So how do we do? We create a collaboration. We create. We limit the discourse on corruption, because once we don't limit it, and it becomes the ambassador or the lead talk of our country, then we start finding problems. And that's what I was getting at. So we talk about the sources of Liberia. We talk about accountability. We talk about how we can fix corruption. And when corruption charges come up, we should be able to sincerely investigate it, find out the facts. I can come on your platform and talk about it. If it's this person or that person, I got the facts, right? We have done that. So we can talk about it with all assurity because we know it's substantiated. We know where we're going with that. So, but if we continue the way we're doing it now, where every opposition party is corrupt, the government is corrupt, everybody we hate corruption because corruption is being weaponized, and it's uncontrollable right now, then we tend to lose the bigger part of our country. If all of us go down with it, every individual citizen goes down with it. Don't think your Liberian will be clear when you go out there. The first question they're going to ask you, they're going to talk about you. Say, well, we read the news. That's what the guy told me. I said, what do you mean about country corrupt? He said, oh, that's what I hear. That's what I read. And he was right. And he said, in fact, I just spoke with a group from Liberia, and all they spoke about was corruption. I was like, oh my goodness. He said he was confused when he heard that. He said he didn't believe that. He said he didn't think that would be the talking point of our country, especially the young people. But now it's become the seasonal thing. It's become the hip thing in the country that people don't look at facts. People don't understand the context of things. People use emotions. People use that as a weapon to get against people they don't agree with. So now you hear the American ambassador come and speak. That's what you're hearing, right? That's what you're hearing. So he speaks. You go to him and tell him, guess who we are. This. So what he is, and then we use emotion now. In diplomacy, you have dialogue. In diplomacy, you use soft skills. You get to him, find the context. Government will do that. Find the context where you're speaking from. So you may not understand the context you were speaking from. You may just think he was just castigating the country or downplaying the country or denigrating the country. But we do it more ourselves. So we shouldn't really get angry with foreign leaders or foreign dignitaries doing it to us. Because we're telling them to do it to us. We're exposing ourselves. It's like you go in the street and tell everybody every secret, everything in your home. And then people come and say, "Oh, Dennis home." This. You say, "Oh, I'm mad with you. Why you had to talk?" No, you went.
Let me take some comments here. We have Jimmy Ismail said, "Is there a score sheet to measure the success of our foreign policy? If not, how do we know it's succeeding?"
Yeah, one of our and that's what I said. That's what I just alluded to. That we don't have to go way back in the dead past. I consider that dead. What happened in 1847 happened in 1847, right? We came from plantations. We know the story. Does it help put food on the table for us today? Does it help build us better road? Does it help give us better infrastructure for school, health? No. So that's gone. But what's the immediate past we had, and what the progress we've made? Our immediate past was the 3 decades of civil conflict, right? And we mustered strength. Liberians showed that they were resilient, that they will overcome that. We show the proclivity for hard work. We show the sense of some emergency of getting ourselves back, building our image. We've had a government that came from scratch. When Madam Sadi took office, she walked into daunting, like I said, walking into daunting challenges, where she had to lead a country exhausted from 3 decades of civil strife, destroyed infrastructure, collapsed economy, a non-existent security sector, and with the state institutions incapable of providing basic services to its people. Everything was gone. And most importantly, she inherited a country of a historical that was carved with historical injustices and atrocities from our conflict. There was nothing standing. In other words, she was burdened with the task, inarguably, of building a nation from scratch. And we made it possible. We succeeded, right? So in my mind, if you look at the hopeless background that our country had, and the accomplishments that she made, that she had to put that against, you would say, well, she succeeded. And what I'm telling you right now is what the international community hope on Liberia. Now they hear corruption from our mouths, but they're still doing business with us. It's just like a potential investment. It's going to be slow because people are going to be thinking, should I really put my money there? The people say they corrupt. The people they say they corrupt. You know, so that's the background I'm coming from. Look, she didn't go. She said what? She only used corruption at the time. Public enemy number one, right? Because everything was going to decay. The frame and the whole institution of government was nothing. We have a power sharing government. We had different factions holding different positions in government during the interim period. You know that. So now government for the first time is coming back under one umbrella that she had to govern and lead. So what do you expect? Loose dealings, corruption, and all that would come to different and more than corruption, a lot of things will have to take what you're taking. So you understand where she came from. So when she said corruption, public enemy number one, she inherited something that was completely broken. There were no laws. There were nothing. There were no state institution that were rendering to the citizens. People were not taking pay. There were no office you could go in and say you got a job or whatever. People were bringing people based on faction lines. So you see what she inherited. So, and to this day, and that's why the international our partners, and especially the UN, because I'm at the UN most of the time, I'm doing advisory programs and stuff and teaching workshops and stuff. So, and leadership programs. There, all they know of Liberia is a post-conflict success story. Their energy, their resources, their time and effort, and they use Liberia everywhere.
Yeah, thank you. The next question here from Dave Jassy: what's Liberia's negotiating or interactional leverage in diplomacy, especially with the US or Europe? What we got?
What is our what? Say again,
What's
sorry.
our negotiating leverage when we get with the United States or Europe at the table? What's our leverage?
Well, I would think we have good leverage. We have a strong leverage. Unfortunately, I'm not currently in government to know exactly how they're managing their international policies and how they're interacting bilaterally or multilaterally with the various groups. But I would think there have been things established that are long term because investment packages with countries and negotiate all these agreements. They don't go like from 1 year to the next year, what have you. It's a whole roadmap plan. It's like what we say when we say roadmap. Roadmap is immediate plan terms, medium terms, and a long term plan. So all of those things are still in the package. The only thing we had is that it has a series of setbacks from the pandemic and other things that are happening on the financial market that has to do with the economy, economic crisis, and all that, where you affect and slow things and slow progress. But I would think everything is still on path, and if the current government is well aware and have the right people and the right mechanism, they can make good use of it. But I won't be able to say what is happening right now because I don't know the
You
indications
don't,
that
you
are
don't know.
happening.
So we may or may not have a leverage.
No, like we do have a leverage. The leverage is that the leverage is we have established good relations with a lot of these
Okay.
bilateral and multilateral financial institutions. We have established good leverage with good relations with various countries around the world,
Okay.
powerful countries as well.
We have
So
peace.
that's a leverage. That's a leverage. First, in diplomacy, the leverage is accepting you, and it's left for you to make good of your wants and your needs.
Okay.
It's like if I got my home, right, and if I didn't respect you or I didn't care about you, you're not enter my home,
Okay.
right? But if I give you a seat at the table in my home, on my dining table, to break bread with me, means that
I'm still
I'm in business with you. I respect you.
right.
So a lot of these countries, we have established diplomatic ties, diplomatic relations, and in diplomacy, how you know a country is serious about diplomatic relations is to open consulate or embassies. So we have like somebody says, oh, the America doesn't like America wouldn't allow us to establish an embassy in Liberia, regardless of where it's located. We have a diplomatic relations with them. We have an embassy here existing. It's left with our representatives to know exactly what to do and what not to do. We have consulates. We have with the international financial institutions. We have a seat at the table with them. They're calling us. They're checking us regularly. With the United Nations, we have a big group, like international group. We are founding members, and they respect us, and they still hold us in high regard, regardless of all the talk and the back and forth. They still hold us in high regard. So we have a leverage. Now, how do you use the leverage? I think that should be the question. If I come to Dennis or Dennis asks me to come and have dinner with him, am I coming to sit on Dennis table and asking for, oh my man, thank you for inviting me. I know you respect me, but the deferential treatment, I like it, but I mean, I need time. Damn, I want to mess the leverage. I'm diminishing myself right there. So what are we doing with the leverage? We do have this leverage. We have the opportunities. We are not going to door, they will open it. But how do we use it? Who do we have in the front? I think that should be the debate.
A seat at the table alone. I mean, it's
Hmm.
just an opportunity to sell yourself, but really, it's not leverage.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
I say a seat
No,
at the table.
no. In a concept of diplomacy,
Okay.
in a concept of diplomacy, is if you're let through the door, it's a leverage.
Okay.
If you're not let through the door, then it means forget about it. But if a country comes and open and establish diplomatic relations with you, and they go to the extent, because sometimes there are diplomatic relations, like, okay, yeah, we know we visit and we know we have cordial relation, but there's no existence of a embassy or any structure,
Right.
a conflict or something. So if it goes to that level, it means that it's a serious business in diplomacy.
Thank you. Sam Wallace said you need to understand the past in order to appreciate the present so as to clearly inform the future direction. I think we started with that, by history.
So let me go over that one more time.
Mm.
I'm not against, yeah, let me make this clear. I'm not against the past, right? What I'm saying is that there are some of our past that at this critical juncture that we find ourselves. What does the past do for us? It doesn't help us. It doesn't give us the power of thinking. Now, you cannot deny your. That's why I'm saying if what we can do is destroy our past. If we deny it, we'll be in a slippery road, which of course is true, but not the historical analysis of the past. Because the historical analysis of the past, it has its own place, perhaps not to the best driver of change. And we're looking at change. We're looking at forward thinking. We're looking at a forward march ahead of us. Change requires a forward thinking vision, not burdened by the past, especially the distant past. So one of the paths we're going to look at is that we're going to look at the critical time in our history. Like I said, the critical juncture in our history, the dark past we have. Because why are we looking at our immediate past? Because it's relatable to all of us. You can relate to it. I can relate to it, right? We know the burden. We know what we felt. We know how it was. But what good would it do with Liberia right now? If I talk about Joseph Jimmy Roberts, we sit there. We can do that at a different setting, yeah, lecture series and just rehash, just remind ourselves. But if I sit down right now with all that is going on, and we're looking at really appealing to the youth, that's what I said. The whole thing was what? What the topic of the show was? Leadership, diplomacy, and the future of Liberia. So if we're taking that into consideration, we're looking at that. And I sit here and just spend the whole time telling you about which country wanted to marginalize Liberia, who came to our aid, and at the time the British came in and helped us, and then we got our independence from the Brits, and then the U.S. came back to us in World War I. They built RIA, and then just going back, our people came. They were on the Shepherd, not Shepherd, but Providence Island, and they gave us money to buy land. We crossed that stage. We got the land. We're there now. We're there. We arrived. We're not coming anymore. We're already there. So how we make good of it? Not blaming people in the past. Most of the time it goes with blame. Liberia, sometimes we have the whole syndrome of blame game, and it makes us victims. And we cannot allow ourselves be victims. We have the proclivity of hard work. We have a prosperous society. We have immense reserve of natural resources. And one good thing we have in our favor that most developing countries don't have, you know what? The vibrant youth population of our country is on the high.
Right. If the coup not finished, then let me let me get the last comment here, and then we go to our phone line. Jimmy Gaga is not giving me some love here. He said this Dennis guy is throwing softball question at this guy. If the country is corrupt and the government is not seeking the interest of its people, is he suggesting that we should lie to foreigners?
No.
Sam Wallow is trying to be funny here, so let me read Sam. He said the guest wants to put Dennis out of business, suggesting FOL wait for the facts before reporting. I think he can be he can do good stand-up comedy more than me. All right.
So
let me announce the number again. If you want to join the conversation, I have some callers. They kind of drop up. The number is on the screen there in the takeout. So please call the number Other than that, let's go to our last point here as we look forward, because it's always we talk about Liberia's future,
Mm-hmm.
future of Liberia. Everything that
Mm-hmm.
we've spoken about today, how do we craft this image or this future? Okay, how do we get there now? What do we? In fact, when it comes to foreign policy, diplomacy, what do you see in the future? How do we all contribute towards this kind of future that we all want? When I was in high school, or 20, right, the year 2000 was a big deal. No, was it two? Yeah, 2000 was a big deal. It's not anymore. We passed that future. So what do you see in our future?
I see a lot of potential in our future. I see a lot of good things in our future, and I see a bright future for Liberia. And that's why I always keep it positive. And that's why if you understand my concept and my whole direction in this whole thing is that Liberia becomes a responsible society once more, like we used to be.
Mhm.
Liberia do those things that
Honorable Greaves, please hold that thought. Let me bring in our first caller
yeah,
here.
yeah.
The caller here, caller, your name and where you calling from?
Hey, good evening, Mr. John. My name is Raquel Yedia, calling from Atlanta. Just want to give a shout out to Honorable Greaves. Thank you so much for serving your tenure for our country of Liberia. And my kind of question, and I also had a comment, and I know that, you said that Ambassador Michael McCarthy, he spoke highly of the country, but at the same time, due to the nature of, how people were talking about the country almost in like a condescending way, or putting the country down, that's basically them seeing and hearing and taking it and running with it. My question is, if the people, in regards to them having a democracy and a voice and a freedom of speech due to the nature of their experience, are living these realities, shouldn't they voice their opinions on the realities that they're living? Because this definitely has, the international community does have an eye on this, especially the private sector, because I work with some of these guys and they're even witnessing themselves. They have partners on ground that talk about the inconsistencies and the constraints that they do have operating from a business standpoint, yet alone like the people, the actual people. So, you can see it from like the full spectrum as well. That's my question to you. Don't you think that has an effect on our international community as well? Because the people living there are the ones that are actually going through these problems, these challenges. Mm-hmm. Of course, it can be overcome, but it comes down to, like, of course, good leadership. Everything rises and falls on leadership. So that's kind of my statement and question, if you will. Thank you.
Right. I mean, someone who didn't eat last night, what will he say?
Yeah, I mean, it's an important question she asked, and I thanks for being a part of this show, and thank you for chipping in and making your voice heard. And the concerns are right. Look, I'm not in a position of precluding their whole debate of corruption or going against bias and ills within our society. What I was projecting was there are a lot of good things that the country has done. There are a lot of good things that we can talk about as Liberians out there, and there are some of the things that we can talk about, back home in a responsible way that will not just pin the entire country. Because when a lot of our people, like somebody said, I'm putting out of business. I think I'm making you more credible, because when you come on your platform and speak of a corruption cases, you would have done your background work on that. You would have balanced the facts. You have had evidence, or even not almost not like 100% evidence, whatever. But you have some concrete and genuine reason to accuse an individual or an entity or whatever of corruption, and that's responsible citizenship right there. Means that you're using your platform for good of the country. That's the only way we find change in our country from corruption. If we go after the cases rightfully and sincerely. And so my thing is that I've witnessed situations where we have weaponized it. And she made a good point. People back home, and people got different viewpoints when it comes to that. When it comes to hardship, sometimes hardship, people like everywhere, every country, even the great United States of America, they got hardship. They got people who sleep, well, food. So it's not been prioritized. Is what I'm saying. Like that's the only thing happening in the country.
Right.
Back home, their hardship, their problems, and I'm not discounting that because we're still dragging up the ladder. We're midway, or we're someplace almost midway, but we're still dragging up. We still need more help. The government alone can do it all. Even when Manaseli was there with all the international attraction and what have you, Manaseli government, President Seli could not do it alone. We still have difficulties, challenges. Every government will be faced with challenges. Every government will be faced with economic problems and these kind of things. So how do we help all of us? That lady who is home, who slept hungry and they didn't have food to eat. That person who's calling you abroad and saying it's not easy here and talking to us. That company that went down to Liberia to invest and form problems and difficulties or what have you. It is because of our own doing. Like I just asked you the question. If a guy comes to you and say, I'm corrupt, I want you to employ me, you would think twice.
Yeah.
Say you want a job, I'm corrupt. It's just what we're doing. So because of the way we carelessly using and weaponizing the word corruption against our institutions, ourselves, our political leaders, our friends, it's not even in government alone. It's people going at each other.
Yeah.
As soon as you call your name right now, you get in the plane, go home, and say, hey, I'm doing a survey. I want to check my district, and I want to see if I can get. They're gonna dig behind you. They're gonna find something. Somebody's gonna post something about you. So that mean in America, that mean corrupt.
Nothing
So
you
that
do.
mean corrupt. I mean stole money in America. You won't come here. You can't use the money. That's the person. I'm telling you. So what does it do to us? It hurt. That's why the common people who are suffering today, not so really suffering. They are suffering because the burning the pins. Because people do not want to do business with us. And if they don't do business with us, they don't invest in our country. What happened? The government doesn't suffer. The government, that's where the B-shot, the people, they're well off. But the common people, they will not find job.
Yeah.
Economy, the global economy was stalled. Investment was slow. The potential investors that will come to Liberia and say, we want to invest, there will be, because investment, you have to base it on risk analysis, cost benefit analysis. Am I sending my money there to invest where I get the return? Where I be successful? Where it go good? Those are questions asked. Even countries want to invest. International organizations want to invest. Business groups that want to invest. Those are the things that come in mind. And if you see investment from international partners and interest groups investing in Liberia right now, it's on a very small scale. You know why? Because they're testing. They're not sure. So it's like, you know what? I can manage to invest this amount. And if I lose it, if I lose it, rather sorry. If it goes in the thin air, I don't care. What as that group should come in and investing heavily more than that cap. So you find people even investing in Liberia. You hear all the news, all the news media and what have you. Investment is taking place. This company has come to Liberia to open this concession, or open donor concession, open this company and what have you. It's on a minuscule level.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Let me take our last caller for the night. Caller Jimmy Eastman calling from the nation's capital. Go ahead, Jimmy. You're live.
Okay, Dennis, again, your mind, you always bring up good topics. My greetings to Honorable William Greaves. I see him doing his best, I guess, but he been mentioning control, that foreign policy is about the country's image. All right, and what are you, and what do you represent? How are we going to interact with you? Back in the day, Liberia represented the ability for Africans to govern themselves. And though they tried everything they could to thwart our efforts, not giving us loans, not recognizing us, and when they do give us a loan, they give us a draconian loan that strangulates our economy. When finally our great pies, the city U.S., comes to our aid, what they do, they introduce Firestone that didn't even want to pay a decent wage to our people, almost like slave labor. And then they carry the narrative, these people are suffering, the Africans. They didn't mention that 95% of the whole country was still wearing, nobody wearing shoes. Everybody was largely poor. Yeah, there were one or two, but everybody was largely poor. Not even to buy shoes. That's how I want to tell you how poor we were. But they set that image again to defeat us. It comes to Tubman then championed the African freedom. They supported the South African struggles, the Namibian struggle, all the struggles in Africa. That's who they were at that time. That was their narrative. That was their public foreign policy. In Talbot time, it was similar, that we were non-aligned and we represent ourselves. And what happened? Being non-aligned led to his demise, actually. So, but there is something that the callers and the writers who keep on mentioning. What about this oppression that happened before? Why aren't we addressing it? And let me tell you, Mr. Greaves, why it's important to address it. Because our identity now depends on how we address that. Who are we today? Okay? Who are we now? And when there's a vacuum, that's why only corruption is spoken about. Because we're not about anything else. But now we are a reconciled people that are aiming toward development, aiming toward taking our rightful place in history and in the world. And so if we don't have that, those you mentioned, domestic policy reflects foreign policy, or foreign policy reflects domestic policy.
It's derived.
It's important, yeah. So it's important then that we know what we are, then we know how to reflect ourselves out there. What are we doing? And this has to be addressed. People have to know, who are we today? We're not in Liberia of the 1847. Those few people came in. We are not that. So who are we then? Mm-hmm. We are a people that went through war to address, to take on some of the issues that were never resolved. And today, we are prepared to take our rightful place in history as Liberians, not discriminating against anyone. That's supposed to be our narrative today. So that foreign policy, we find it doesn't address who we are. And so they slip into corruption because they don't see anything else. We have to put something there if you want us to think differently about ourselves. You have to give us something to think about. Okay? If there's a vacuum, they will continue going to corruption. Okay? That's what's going on here. We must identify ourselves. Then we project ourselves.
That's a good point, Jimmy. Thank you. You know, they say if ELBC doesn't report it, then ELDC will take over, right? So I think to Jimmy's point, just to add to that is maybe it's there, but it is not being articulated. Your thoughts?
The foreign policy agenda?
So Jimmy said who we are, because if there's a vacuum, we don't know who we are, then it's not. So I'm saying maybe it's who we are is there, but it's not being articulated, so we don't know. So we fill the vacuum with corruption.
Yes, I can understand the frustration with many of us, right? Like I said, we just blended the whole topic of this show from diplomacy, international relations, and leadership. Leadership, I will add responsible leadership. So if we all Liberians are responsible, we will know how to address situations. Relationship between friends and whatever you want is reciprocity. relations between nations and bilateral ties or whatever is reciprocity. So the way you treat others is how you want people to treat you. And the reason it's not that I don't care about our distant history. I do cherish it. I've learned it in school. I know the founding fathers. I know what happened, the ECS and the Mayflower, all that. But what I was trying to say, maybe at another time, another discourse, we can use that and further, that's it. But for now, I was looking at the mentality, trying to change the mentality of our people because we have a vibrant population of young people, which is very good for our future. There are many countries around the world, powerful nations, that have that problem. They don't have young or vibrant citizens, youthful citizens, and they're looking for it in other ways. That's why you find people going to the borders, you find people opening borders to have people come in, and all of those things. We have that. We're blessed with that. We have the resilience. We have the proclivity of work discipline. Liberian man, you just need to be led and told what to do. We're hardworking. So the thing is, what I was getting at. So Torbert, Totman, all those people, all the things happened in the past. Yeah, we cherish them, but they're gone. Liberia used to be the leading group or the leaders in Africa. All the countries EU used to look at us, right? And now we found ourselves downhill. We've gotten up. We've waken up again. We should be striving to go back in that place. Can we do it all by ourselves? No. Can any country in the world, even right now, with the financial crisis that have hit every country, big and small, can any country do it on its own? No. The United States of America is what, like deep in the hole, 32 trillion in debt. They worry about the future. They worry about the children. They worry about the grandchildren. How are they going to pay that debt back? So every country is dependent upon aid. Now, what I'm saying is that we're not going to cut aid, and nobody can be in a rightful mind and say, hey, we don't want AIDS, we don't want grants, we don't want. No. You have to be strong. If you're crawling, you want to start walking, and then you can say, okay, I can balance myself. So right now, we're here with AIDS and grants. Our own little resources and whatever, internal revenue system, whatever, is here. Investment and all that is here. Until we can bring it on par, then we know what we're talking about. Then we got a secure economy. Our economy right now is shattered. It's not sustainable. You know why? Because it's dependent upon others to balance it. And if that hand is up, we'll be rushing the mansion and tell the president to step down. We will not understand the intricacies. We will not understand what is the determining factors. That's where I'm driving at. Okay. Accuse people, understand the facts. Go and do your research. We can do it. Understand what is. Don't listen to somebody tells you that man is corrupt. Oh, the government is this. The president stole money. The person do that, and we just jump. Boom. We're all understanding. What if the aids that were coming in certain percentage got declined or reduced, and the government is struggling and trying? So there's so many factors in there. I'm not talking on behalf of the government. I'm not the government. I'm not a speaker for the government. No, but I'm just saying all these things do have, because I've been in government. I've seen some areas where it's been very tough on the leader, and the citizens don't know. I've seen in cases where we hear in the news 20 million was given to Liberia by this group. And I know that money in the first phase, bomb. They don't just give it bomb like that. They give it in phases. The first amount dropped. Then expatriates and all the international staff come. Then we look at what we do, cost of living adjustment. So they got to live in Liberia as they live in Europe or America. So you got to settle that. So there are all kind of things that happen. They can go load that money, then the project is supposed to be done. And all companies not see money. And then the project falls short. Then the government is at the neck bottom and thinking, what can we do? Citizens don't understand that. They don't know. All they know, the project has failed. They put in the money. Who ate the money? The government ate the money. The man is corrupt, and we hear corruption. Then it's just regurgitated. It's just played. We're all having the facts. Nothing is just played. It's just regurgitated. And nobody cares. Even if the fact is established, nobody goes back to say, okay, oh, these are the reasons. Oh, we didn't understand. No, it's gone. Water on the rock, as we call it in Liberia. So what I'm saying, the issue of corruption should not be used as a form of rhetoric, empty rhetoric. It should not be replete with cliches and nuances for personal or political purposes. It should rather be approached seriously. It should be viewed in all dimensions. You know, and with sincerity and establish facts. And only then we can be certain that true change is possible, that we're really going after corruption. But if we don't do that, we don't establish the facts, we're not sincere, we use it as an empty talking point, as a rhetoric to get our people, and we weaponize it, and we're not doing any good to corruption. We're getting yelled from the Dugal Palace Hotel. It will make no difference. It will only bring us down. That's the point I'm going at. When I walk in certain offices, in certain conferences, you know what I see up there? I see President Sirleaf's last nation address, a caption of it. How do I feel? I feel proud. And then when I'm talking with colleagues, I'm saying, okay, we have some problems back home in Liberia. This. But I'm on a high. Look at what I see. I walk in the room, I'm graced with people quoting President Sirleaf. Our democracy is irrevocable. It binds every future leader of this country to the will of the people. Liberia today reflects the changing face of the continent, where the rule of law, human rights, good governance, the accountability are demanded by its citizens. This is Africa's future, and Liberia is one of its inviolable democracies. Go to the AU headquarters. Go to the African Union office here in New York. They got the president. Liberia is an inviolable democracy of leading the charter of Africa. And what it based it upon? What she took the country, how she kept it and preserved the peace. How she had successive elections during her tenure peacefully. How she transitioned power to an opposition political leader. How Liberia is on a right trajectory. They also understand the other problems we have. It's not I don't know. But the thing they can work with that is about the diplomatic approach. That's why this program is so unique. Talking about what? Diplomacy, international relations, right? And we're talking about what? Leadership as well. And the future of Liberia. So you see how it correlate, how it intertwine. It was not a mistake. And that should be the driving force. That should be the thing. When I walk to the UN headquarters in New York, you know what they got on Liberia right there? The last message, the message of what's his name? Paris, the former SRSG. The former SRSG, Fabi Zaraf. He said in his own words, he confirmed and expressed his confidence that despite Omil's departure of Liberia, right? Mm-hmm. Liberia will be a far better situation to meet. Liberia will be in a far better. Let me remember what. Liberia will be in a far better situation to meet the challenges of the future despite continued fragilities. So you see what he's saying? He's not saying Liberia is all right. He's not saying everything is fine. He said continued fragilities means that we have problem. Mm-hmm. But he said despite all that, Liberia will meet any challenge that will try to impede our future. We are on the right path. And he said he can with confidence, he can firmly express that.
Thank you.
So those are the things I'm talking about. If those people can do it for us, we can. I don't want anybody to sugarcoat anything. I don't want you to turn a blind eye on the government, because we are checking balances of the government. We that way you have opposition, that will have democracy. Check the government. Be on them. Make sure that they're doing the right thing, because they are there. They're holding our treasury. They're there to make sure that we have better life. We have economic growth and all those and sustainable growth at the time. But do not use certain terminology or certain means because you hit the government or you hit opposition or you hit this person, you hit that person. So you weaponize. That's why I use the word weaponize. When it's weaponized, means it's not factual. You don't have the facts. You haven't established. You're not sincere. It's replete, like I said, with cliches and nuances. It's an empty talking points. And just use to denigrate this. And when you do it, if I do it to you, Dennis, you're a Liberian, I'm a Liberian. Who suffers? The citizens of Liberia.
Thank you.
Not the government, the citizens of Liberia. Because the government will be able to survive, the officials will be able to survive, but the citizens will find tough time and find serious challenges because there will be nobody to come and invest. There will be nobody to come and give that old lady in the street or that young guy passing around the street begging for money, giving a job and cleaning up. Because investors will be afraid. It's a true thing. And I use this one. Look, I'll give you a story. I took assignment in 2012 as Council General in New York. So I started to do this interactive forum and meet all the different Liberian groupings around, especially those in my jurisdictions, right? I met the group on Staten Island, and I went upstate New York, all the Liberian community groupings, met and introduced myself with them, sat with them, talked with them, understood what applies. So I go to New Jersey, Newark. So I come in, and for some reason they preserve the parking in the back for me. So I will come from the back entrance, park my car in the back entrance, the driver will park, and I will walk from the back and come and meet the gathering. So they're coming through the front entrance. I just came here like 3 months, not even established myself good yet. So I come in. This guy is in the gathering. The people sitting, everybody's sitting, waiting for me, waiting for the Council General to come to meet us. So he's there. He walks in, and what happened here? So it was a local restaurant owned by one fellow called Eddie Jones. Oh, what are you doing here? Everybody dressed, everybody sitting down. Who are you waiting for? Says, oh, no, the Council General come and meet us. We're receiving our Council General today. You know, the acquaintance, you want to meet with us, and we assembled and blah, blah, blah. Oh, the Council General, that's foolish. Excuse my expression. That foolish man. Where you gonna be saying, wait for that man? I mean, that foolish, that picking that them in America, in Liberia, or in the street, using the word, the colloquial word we use, the common word, the gapping. He had nothing to do. The Oma, I know they want to go back to Oma, and if the Oma goes, she didn't even and think about it, right? When tell the man, send the man, go make Council General. That man wouldn't know nothing. That man, that gapping man. So the man get rid of the man. The first thing the man do, the man marry well woman. You see America before you come America. Oh, the eyeball, you get beat job. You marry well woman. That fully man come sitting away for. So at this time you're talking, I've walked in from the back entrance. So I'm standing. And I have my driver, because the driver came in with me, I think he had my bag or laptop or something you bring. So he was standing. So we're like 3 standing, and the host was standing with me. So he looked at me, he said, do you know the guy? I said, what met that guy before? I don't even know him. I'm not sure he's talking about me. So everybody said, just keep quiet, don't say a word, let him talk. So he went on and on and on. But then everybody got going, he's looking at me, I'm standing there.
Mm-hmm.
And he hasn't called my name, he didn't even know I was there. It's a Liberian guy. Didn't even know I was there. So the late Agrito just passed, may so rest in peace. So Agrito was like, CG come. Let's walk out. We walk out. We walk one back in the back. So he said, you know that guy? That man? We said, that man doesn't live in the community. That man came from, I think, Rhode Island or someplace. He just stopped by. He used to be here before, but he left. He only come and visit and said, we know you're coming. So we apologize. I said, no, don't apologize. It's okay. I said, look, we know this thing. I'm from Liberia. I've been in politics. I know what it is. I know what people do to each other. So when I went outside, so Abito had gone back in. So Abi said, hey, excuse me, do you know the Council General? I know that man. So when you see the making recognize him, of course. Then just in that breath, the lady was sitting close and there's about the man was standing right there. We're talking about. He said, oh. He said, okay, look, I'm gonna get something from my car. I come to my desk now. As I was walking in, he was walking out. So he went to his car to get something out, and so everybody, profusely apologizing, being very apologetic. I said, no, you don't bother, you leave it. I said, look, I wear a very thick coat. and I'm in a position. That's what we experienced. One of the things. Well, we sat down with her. Guess what? He never returned.
Never came back.
But I said, you know him? I said, I don't know him. I never met a gentleman in my life. I said, I might be in a grouping, and he was in the midst, or never had any direct contact with me. And I don't know. I don't know where he know me from. I said, first of all, to establish that I got married 2009. I didn't come here and go and get. I was in the office of the president as a deputy chief of protocol when I got married to my wife, 2009. I took a summit in 2012. Secondly, I was in the office of the president as deputy chief of protocol. I was assistant minister, and that's the last post I had before my previous post before coming as council general. So I don't know where in the street I was gapping and what I was. Yeah. And everybody knows me in Liberia, know that I was well off, I was well to do, and everybody respects me. So I don't know what he got at the notion for. And everybody was like, oh, but so Napoleon Riggs, all those guys were in there. So no, Greaves, what? Greaves, yeah. That man, because he came in later when he heard the story, he was so agitated. I said, okay, leave me. Because there were the guys that knew me from Liberia and what have you, Michael Kumen, all the guys, they were so agitated, they were so mad. But he never returned. So I said, well, you're trying to go. I mean, I won't talk to this guy. You'll go get him. Guess what? He left. He jumped in his car. He was gone. So you were going to guess him when his car. He never got it. And he never returned. So I'm just telling you, these are the things that I've had, the experiences we've had, that we know. When people talk, when they're not factual, when they say things, it goes. He didn't know me, never met me before. I don't really know the guy. If I see the guy today, I don't really know. Because the first time I saw the glimpse of him, never saw him again.
We see that a lot. But thank you very much for the time tonight. I know we'll do this again.
I look forward to that.
Right. Time. Let me see. We got one announcement here to make on Sunday. We're going to have a new day with Priscilla Yananto, the guest. Melissa Chie Anashi is the former vice president of PUL and also the former editor of the Inquirer newspaper. The topic, a journalist's journey in a male-dominated profession. Watch Noonday this and every Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern. Again, Honorable Greaves, we want to appreciate your time here. We are way out of time. We have we'll give you the opportunity to just give us your closing comment.
So Dennis, once again, thanks for having me. And I know there was a rough start through the cliches and the back and forth, but at least we have something to put out. And I do a lot of talking, I do a lot of teaching, I do a lot of these things on leadership and development diplomacy. So I look forward to coming back again anytime, where we can be more interactive with other panelists, and so we can get engaged and delve into the issue. But what I will leave is that I will leave this way. The issues that affect our country and citizens today are far beyond the weaponization of corruption. Corruption used in a negative aspect of things. So we keep hanging this dark cloud over our own heads, and it hurt us. I just want to know, it hurt us. It's about time that we all, as Liberians, start being accountable and work for the interest and benefit of all Liberians. And I know that must sound so much and people will be confused, but we can start the discourse now, continue another time, but let it be our talking points. And the ills in society, the problem in society, like the former Secretary General said, there are fragilities. But he was hopeful, and he was confident that where Liberia is on the right path, and that everything that will happen in our future will be positive. That was his own word. That was even the Secretary General of the UN also shared very good words and comments in that regard. Our EU partners, when I was in Brussels, they also shared very fine light on Liberia. They say, yeah, there are challenges. They use the word challenge. He used fragilities. They use challenges. So yes, even though there are challenges in Liberia, but we think Liberia is on path to highlight the things that are done in the way we expect things to be. There are problems that we need to work with more, engaging and see how we can curtail. So Liberia is our proud home. Liberia is for all of us. You don't have to be in government. You don't have to serve in leadership position that is known by everybody like leadership. We are all our own leaders. We are our own diplomats, and we are for the purpose of displaying the good image of Liberia wherever we go as Liberians. Ills are there. Let's talk about it. Let's find the facts. Let's gather the facts, and let's be sincere as we speak about it. But there are too many of us. There are some of us speaking the real truth about corruption, but there are too many of us using it as a weapon. And that's where we're at. So thanks for having me, Dennis.
Thank you so much for your time. I want to thank our viewers, those watching now, and even those who will watch later. Until then, we close with our song that says, "We are all Liberians," because no matter whether you are, whatever ethnic group you come from, or any political persuasion, we are all Liberians. What is incumbent upon all of us is to make our country a glorious land of liberty. Have a good night, and God bless you.
We are Liberians. Liberia is our home. Liberian people. Liberia.